Haru, an ordinary beta male, finds himself in a fantastical realm upon awakening, where he forms a party with two exceptionally beautiful women. However, when their leader falls, Haru reluctantly takes charge of a group whose combined intelligence rivals that of a household appliance. Armed with his SS rank skills, he must navigate treacherous dungeons filled with monsters. The story begins as Haru regains consciousness in complete darkness, with no memory of his past or how he ended up in this mysterious world. In a surprising twist, a portal appears, leading him outside to a group of bewildered individuals staring at the night sky. Their attention is captured by guards in the distance, guiding them to a modest tavern managed by a charismatic figure named Bree, who introduces the world as Grimgar. As Bree warmly welcomes them, a white-haired individual interrupts, demanding a concise explanation. Tensions rise swiftly, with one person taking a confrontational stance and resorting to offensive language reminiscent of a Call of Duty match. Bree swiftly retaliates, unsheathing a dagger and pressing it against Renji's throat, expressing his disdain for arrogance. Undeterred, Renji remains steadfast, defiantly grasping the dagger. Despite the tense standoff, Bree relents, issuing them trainee badges and a modest sum of money, leaving them to confront the looming threats on their own. The following day, Haru finds himself uniting with unselected players, appointing a leader and opting to explore various guilds. Haru ventures into the Thief Guild, encountering a formidable figure named Barbara who promptly puts him in a chokehold. After an intensive 7-day training regimen, Haru transforms into a skilled thief. Among his companions, Maudie evolves into a warrior, Yuma assumes the role of a dark knight, Shai becomes a hunter, a mage emerges, and the leader, simply known as Man, transitions into a priest. Days later, the group pursues a goblin, with Ran attempting an attack only to face formidable resistance. The goblin counters aggressively, launching relentless assaults against Ran, continually driving him backward with each strike. Haru steps in, attempting to thwart the goblin's onslaught with an attack of his own. However, Haru suffers defeat, collapsing to the ground as Ran urges him to finish off the goblin. In a moment of frustration, Haru threatens to thrust a sword into the goblin's rear, just as an arrow narrowly misses him. The arrow's originator is Yume, somewhat resembling a stormtrooper in accuracy. The group's leader advises them to maintain composure and favor close-range weaponry. Mog, a portly member of the group, attempts to engage the goblin, but his hefty sword becomes entangled in a tree. Seizing the opportunity, the goblin performs a celebratory dance reminiscent of Fortnite before striking Mog and swiftly retreating. Suddenly, the goblin redirects its attention to Shai, the group's elusive member, swiftly closing the distance and launching an attack before she can defend herself. To everyone's surprise, the goblin employs magic in its assault. Fortunately, the group's stalwart leader intervenes just in time, preventing Shai from sustaining harm. Ran expresses disbelief that goblins are considered the weakest monsters in this world, while Haru acknowledges that, at this point, they are even weaker than the purportedly feeblest creatures, compelling them to make a hasty retreat. The following dawn, Haru rises with the first light, only to be promptly teased by his roommate Ran about his appearance. A political discussion ensues, but their conversation is abruptly halted when a man enters the room, instructing them to join him downstairs for breakfast. Haru realizes it was his turn to prepare breakfast, but the man reassures him, acknowledging his fatigue from the previous day's skirmish. Descending to the courtyard, they find Mog indulging in a hearty meal, while Yumi observes in fascination. Seated for breakfast, the man checks on everyone's well-being and suggests they venture into the forest. Emphasizing that confronting two goblins simultaneously proved challenging, he advises them to focus on defeating a lone goblin. Although Ran initially expresses a desire for more experience points, he reluctantly agrees to the strategy. They set out to the jungles, and as the sun dips below the horizon, Yumi spots 4 goblins by a riverside, enjoying their leisure time. Contemplating an attack, they weigh the option despite their nearly empty wallets, acknowledging their collective weakness against 4 goblins. With a pragmatic decision, they retreat for the night, intending to regroup and face the challenge anew the next day. As dawn breaks, Manda indulges in another hearty meal, while Haru, returning from shopping, shares eggs to fortify their strength. Haru then sets out to rouse the others. However, Ran's comment about Yoon's physique triggers a swift and resounding slap. The day takes a turn for the worse as rain forces them to seek refuge under tents in the forest. Enduring 3 days of downpour, their meager earnings dwindle further, leaving Haru unable to afford basic necessities like underwear, resorting to washing and reusing the same pair. Undeterred, they venture to a neighboring town, ravaged but rumored to be a goblin stronghold. Fortunately, the goblins prove to be less vigilant, presenting an opportunity for an easier confrontation. Venturing outside, Haran discovers a slumbering goblin within the confines of an abandoned dwelling. Swiftly returning to the gang, he relays the find, and they mobilize for the impending hunt. Assuming strategic positions, the group prepares for the confrontation. Ran, adopting a stealthy approach, inches closer to a goblin and skillfully pierces its neck, abruptly awakening the creature. The goblin's startled screams fill the air as it retaliates against Ran. Swiftly, the group's leader intervenes, delivering precise blows to the goblin's face and head, bringing an end to the skirmish. The spoils from this encounter boost the gang's morale, yet caution prevails as the leader cautions against premature celebration, emphasizing the importance of a safe return. Subsequently, the dilapidated town becomes their preferred locale, offering opportunities to dispatch sleeping goblins with ease, albeit occasionally engaging in open combat. Spotting a larger group of 4 to 5 goblins proves too perilous to confront, prompting the gang to steer clear and focus on solitary, less experienced adversaries. Gradually accumulating wealth, Haru eventually attains enough funds to acquire undergarments, a feat achieved through shrewd negotiation to avoid the discomfort of going commando. Ran and Mog decide to indulge in a feast, splurging their hard-earned money on a variety of food. However, a wise man advises them to exercise fiscal restraint, emphasizing the potential benefits of saving money to acquire new skills that could prove invaluable in future battles. In agreement with this insight, they opt to retire for the night, eager to resume their adventures the next day. The following morning, the trio embarks on another expedition into the ruins, ready to confront goblin adversaries. As they encounter a goblin in direct combat, Ran attempts a strike, only to be outmaneuvered. Seizing the opportunity, Haru and Yu strategically position themselves, with Haru unveiling her newfound skill, the air slash, allowing her to attack foes from a distance. While the goblin is distracted, Haru swiftly dispatches him, dodging his attacks before delivering a fatal blow. As Yon tends to her weapons and Rand examines the loot, they discover more goblins lurking nearby. Sheet unveils her recently acquired skill, Shadow Wind, immobilizing an unsuspecting goblin. Seizing the chance, the man incapacitates the goblin with a powerful blow to the shoulder, breaking its arm, and Ran delivers the finishing strike. After securing their loot, the party takes a break for lunch. After a very successful morning hunt, they all talk about how they have advanced as a team and are finally working in synergy to take down enemies with surprising ease. They even discuss the possibility of attacking larger groups of goblins now that they are much more experienced and stronger. Finally, they all get up to move out for the afternoon hunt. But while Man was leading the group, Haru suddenly notices something shining on top of the building and immediately jumps towards Man, pushing him away while an arrow hits him in the shoulder. Haru falls to the ground while Man runs towards him, but before he can heal him, the goblin loads another bolt and nails Haru through the leg, making him scream with pain. Mog immediately carries him to safety, as he loses his dagger, and Man immediately tries to heal him, only to hear the screams of the girls as a giant goblin emerges from the house. Ran immediately runs towards it, while Mobile is busy with another goblin. Man tells everyone to back off while they still try to fight against the forces, only to realize that they are outnumbered heavily and will die if they don't run away. They hide through the buildings and start running away, when one of the goblins rushes on top of a building and 360. No scopes the shit out of Man. Even after that, Man keeps running, and they end up finding their way into the forest, where they are all breathing hard. Haru notices that the man looks a bit pale, and suddenly he falls down to the ground as Haru spots a crossbow bolt on his back. They all quickly surround him and try to help, but Man was the only one who knew healing magic. He tries to heal himself, but it doesn't work. While Haru asks him what they should do, the man tries to say something but ends up dying because of excessive blood loss right in front of them, while they try to do anything to revive him. By the time it even comes, they all make their way back to the town and run straight to the temple. While carrying Man, Haru immediately goes up to the chief priest and begs him to save him. The old man goes to have a look at him, but tells him that he can't save the man anymore, as he is already dead. Ran gets angry and threatens the old man, while Haru desperately begs him to try anything in order to revive him. Maud holds Haru back while the old man tells them that nothing can be done now, and the best thing to do is to give Man a proper funeral. As in this area, when a fallen soldier isn't given a proper funeral, they become a zombie and are recruited into the Demon King's army. Haru asks whether it costs money. The old man claims that it costs a decent amount of money, but if they don't have it, he will pay for it, as if the man was his student. Harvard shouts at him that they will pay for Man's funeral no matter the cost, as he was their comrade and friend who deserves a proper send-off. Everyone grieves for their team leader, who was always calm, cool, and collected, and made sure they all survived no matter what. And after cremating him, They blow ashes in a beautiful valley so that he can return back to the ground amongst beautiful flowers. That evening, Haru and Ma go to the nearby tavern and spot Ran sitting alone on a table. They join him for some drinks while talking about what to do when Ran tells them that he doesn't want to adventure anymore. He claims that he doesn't have any will or drive to go in the forest or kill enemies and will simply find some other job. Haru tries to knock some sense into him, but this leads to a total blow-up as both him and Ran start shouting at each other while he even accuses Haru of being the cause of Man's death. As if he didn't get hit twice by the arrows, Man might have had enough energy to heal himself. Suddenly, a guy named Kick approaches them. He claims that he heard them talking from afar and asks how they are doing. They tell them about the death of their leader and friend, and he feels sorry for them but claims that they need to keep going on, but they would need a priest. He claims that priests are the center of a party and should never be in a vanguard, as it is basic knowledge and common sense that any enemy will try to target your healer and take it out if given the chance, as the healers are the most problematic party members who keep the whole team together. He claims that in his party, the priest is always protected by 2 warriors at all cost. This makes Mong feel bad, as he was always the one needing help, and instead of him being a tank, Man was always forced in a position where he was the healer, the tank, as well as the attacker. He tells them not to brood over it, as what's done is done, and tells them to keep going on. But before that, he tells them to get priests in their party, as without a priest they are all as good as dead. Harvard claims that no one will join their party anymore, as they are probably the weakest team and they have no money or any other incentive. Kick tells them to keep trying, and promises to try and find them some candidates before floating off to some other table. The next morning, the team is introduced to Marie. She is supposed to be a priest, but looks the stark opposite of Man, as she has no smile and no charm. They try to introduce themselves, but Mary doesn't really care, and asks them where they are going. Herva tells her that he thinks they should go to the ruins again, but Mary tells him to make up his mind before speaking, whether or not they are going to the ruins. Ran tries to butt in and tells her to change her attitude, but her cold nature even makes him uncomfortable, and he simply apologizes for no reason. She tells Harvard to start moving. Otherwise, she will go back home, while the entire team feels uncomfortable with the team dynamics, unsure about how long this alliance could keep going on. Later that night, the boys went to the tavern to get drunk again, while discussing the difficult situation they had been put in. He remembers how difficult it was to cooperate with Marie, as when he was drawing a plan, she simply refused to go and fight, as according to her, she is a priest who needs to hide and will only show herself when someone is injured. Ran tried to talk to her about this, and told her that she needs to show up in fights as well, but she totally flipped him off to a level where everyone was sitting on the floor while Ran and Marie were arguing about strategies, even though it's Haru's job to make them. Finally, when it came to actual combat, Marie was totally ignoring them and their formations, which made even Mogman. And when they finally clashed with a goblin, Ran got hurt, while Yum and Haru together ended up pushing the goblin back. Harvin told Marie to heal Ran while they hold the goblins off, but Mary simply replied that his injuries were not that serious, and there is no need to waste mana on such a small wound. Because of this mess, the goblins who were on the verge of defeat ended up using the distraction to run away, and they got nothing out of that fight. Harvard simply drowns his sadness with drinks as he thinks about how Big Daddy Man could have controlled this situation with ease, as when he was around, 2 goblins were a piece of cake for them. But Harvard thinks that he is not capable enough to do the same no matter what. Ran tells them that they should simply forget about her and make their way through the ruined city, earning as much money as possible so that they can buy themselves the badge for the next rank. Harvard tells him that they can't simply drop a priest from their party. Harvard suddenly speaks up and claims that it's not just Marie who is the problem, it's all of them. According to him, they are not communicating at all, and ever since Man's death, they have barely talked with the girls to begin with. Ran tells them to find out a way to make them friends again, but Haru tells him that he has no idea how to do it. The next morning, they all sit down for some breakfast while getting ready to set out for another adventure. And while talking to each other, Yoon claims that though Marie hasn't been the most cooperative, she thinks that none of them have tried to extend a warm, friendly hand towards her either. She tells them from today, she will try to be nice to Marie and make her a friend. Mob comments that he wants to be nice to her, but she never listens to anyone, and she never heals anyone either, while Ran tells them that he's going to make her fall in love with him, and that way she will try to be nicer to everyone else as well. Everyone simply ignores this idiot, while Haru tells them that they need to go slow, as she can't suddenly get friendly with everyone in their group, and they all agree. Later that day, they all go out to meet up with her, and this time, all of them greet her. And even though she ignores them in the start, later she ends up greeting them back and then follows them. On the way, Yu tries to strike a conversation and asks Mary what she had for breakfast, and with all her brain power, Mary replies that she had food in the morning. She tries to continue the conversation by asking whether she liked any snacks, but Mary simply told her she never snacks, and that's the secret to her perfect figure. Finally, they enter the ruined city and hide behind some rubble. After spotting a bunch of goblins ahead, Haru makes a plan and tells them that Ran and Ma will attack first, while Haru and Yum will flank Maria alongside. She are supposed to provide support. Ran and Ma proceed with the initial attack, surprising the goblins, while Yume and Haru attack from the other side, sandwiching them. In the goblin attacks, Haru and he barely dodges while Shay provides cover and Yume comes in for support. On the other end, both Mog and Ran end up getting hit by their opponents and try to fall back. Mary immediately shouts at Mog and tells him to stay forward and not to fall back as he is the warrior, which enrages Ran, who calls her a stuck-up bit. Ran gets attacked, but he dodges and then kicks the goblin away before rushing in for a massive thrust. The last goblin is still going strong against Haru, and Yu, wielding two swords, making their attacks hard to connect, but she comes in with a shadow bind spell and traps the goblin in place, giving Jung the opportunity to attack. But the goblin frees himself and ditches away just in time, only to get attacked by Haru, who slips past its swords and then delivers a massive backstab, killing the goblin immediately. They all seem happy with their teamwork, while Mary walks up to Ma, who got hit in the head, and tells him to remove his helm, while she inspects the wound. She apologizes when he feels the pain, and then uses her healing abilities to cure the wound and stops the bleeding before cleaning it up. Ran shouts at her to heal her as well, but she tells him that he only has a tiny scratch which is starting to clot up already, and if he wants to get healed so badly, he should lick his wound. Haru realizes that she will heal people after the battle when the threat is eliminated, because that way she can use her mana more efficiently, and finally, understands her actions. They go back inside an abandoned house to rest, and while doing that, Haru tries to make small talk and asks whether there are different types of priests. Mary replies that she doesn't know anything about that, but Haru presses on, saying that she seems to have a set way of doing things when it comes to healing, whereas man would heal anyone immediately as soon as they got a wound. By the time Maddie falls, Haru alongside everyone else, including the girls, visit the tavern, and Ran tells them to settle down as this is the first time they have been anywhere like this. While talking to each other, they notice Marie entering the pub, and even after she sees them, she simply ignores and moves on alone. Ran is getting frustrated with her behavior, and to be honest, who wouldn't? But Shai claims that even they didn't try to call her over right now, so they can't blame her completely. Ran claims that they don't have to be considerate towards her for no reason, and Yoon replies that even Ran's parents must not love him, which results in a bickering contest again until they see young Knight walk up and talk to Mary. Ran recognizes him as Shin, who is the part of a famous clan, and they all start thinking, why could he be talking to Marie? That night, Harvard sits alone by the campfire thinking about Big Daddy while also being pessimistic about his own strengths. When Man's illusion appears besides him and tells him that he can do it, he replies that he can't do it because none of the girls call him Daddy, but Man tells him that he can do it, and just like he appeared, he vanishes, leaving Haru alone while he is tripping balls. The next morning, they go down to the ruins once again, where Mog and Haru are in a one-on-one fight, but Haru slashes at his opponent before looking over at Mog, realizing that he is forced to fight carefully, as he doesn't have a helmet, which means that he will die with a single hit to his head. He quickly climbs behind the goblin, while Mog pushes it back, giving Haru the opportunity to slash at its wrist, confusing the beast while Mog hits the goblin down the bridge. While walking through an alley, Haru tells the mob that he should buy a helmet even if it's just a cheap one, and if he doesn't have money, he will chip in as well. Mog tells him that he shouldn't chip in to buy something that he won't even use, but Haru replies that a helmet will help Mog to fight more openly, which will distract the goblins from the other members of the team, giving them an opening to attack Mary closely. Listen to this conversation, while Yum claims that this is an excellent idea and she wants to chip in as well, which results in her wanting to chip in to get a good helmet for Mog. Up ahead, Ran tells him about goblins in the area, and Haru is forced to clash with one, while a hidden goblin tries to attack Marie, but Ran comes to her defense and kicks the beast away before stabbing it to death. He shouts at Marie to stop standing at one place and making her an easy target, but without saying a word, she swings her staff and clobbers another goblin away. Haru realizes that even Marie has learned attack skills with her staff, but she doesn't like Haru, who goes in the front line, but she is definitely willing to protect Shi when danger arises. They all head back for the day in the evening, and while Marie was about to go her separate way, Haru stops her and asks whether she would want to go out for dinner with them. as they have had quite a successful day. Marie declines respectfully, but this time she bids them farewell before leaving. Haru agrees with this sentiment, and to get to know her better, he decides to meet up and talk with Shin from the famous clan called Orion, and ask the other members to accompany him. That night, they all go into the pub and end up meeting with Shin, who sits with them at their table. Haru raises the question about Marie, which seems to surprise Shin, but he tells them that his team member Hayashi is more likely to give them a better answer, as he used to be a member of her team before. Hayashi sits down and tells them that they also used to be a 6-player party, like Haru's party, and they were pretty good in terms of synergy and coordination from the beginning. He claims that within 10 days, they were able to get enough money to buy themselves to the next rank, and they kept getting stronger and stronger, fighting more and more enemies each day. The core of their party was Marie herself, who was very cheerful and lively. She never made anyone feel left out and was always ready to help. According to him, they kept getting stronger to the point where they became cocky. They started venturing deeper and deeper into the dungeons. And one unfortunate day, they entered into a very deep lair to fight the stronger monsters. And there they encountered a huge white monster who had already killed quite a few of the players. They should have ran, but everyone in their team thought that they could handle it. And that was their biggest mistake. He got knocked out by the monster. And when he came back to consciousness, he spotted 2 of his teammates dead on the ground while their team's warrior was trying everything he could to keep the monster back. He shouted at Mary to heal them, but she didn't move and was simply clutching onto one of her teammates' bodies before turning around with tears in her eyes and shouting that she has no mana left for magic. The warrior of their team was covered completely in wounds, and there was nothing he or Marie could do to help him. He somehow got up as the monster attacked the warrior and sent him flying back, deeply wounded. The warrior gets up somehow with the help of Marie and Hayashi and tells them to leave this place immediately before giving them his dog tag. Hayashi realizes what needs to be done and grabs the dog tags of the remaining members of the team before dragging Marie back as the warrior decides to give his life away in order to save his 2 dear friends. After that, they ended up joining Shin's clan, but Marie left soon enough as it was too painful for her to stay in the same place as Hayashi, as it was a constant reminder of the people she has lost ever since that time. She has been party hopping continuously and never stays in a party for too long, as she is afraid of making connections and getting attached to people. He then gets up from the seat and bows before asking them to take care of her and leaves. Shin tells them that he can understand the pain of losing someone, as he also lost countless comrades before, and tells them to treasure their friendship, as they will only realize its worth once it's gone. On their way back to their home, Ran starts complaining that just because she has had a rough past, doesn't mean they have to play extra nice to her. According to him, every single one of them has had a rough past, and if she isn't willing to put an effort into getting past that and making friends, then he is not interested either. The next morning, Yoon and Haru were again scouting the area, while the weather was gloomy and rainy, when Haru notices that one of the goblins has his dagger that he dropped the day the man died. He gets worked up because of that and tries to rush in to get it back, but Yoon quickly pushes him down just in time, as one of the nearby goblins barely missed them and proceeded to go on his patrol. He apologizes to her, saying that he hasn't been himself for the past couple of days, and tells her that they should try and find out where its secret hiding places are. Meanwhile, Ram, Shai, Mang, and Murray are chilling in an abandoned building, passing their time and waiting for Yum and Haru to come. They finally arrive back, totally drenched in rain, and announce that they weren't able to find any good targets, as all the goblins were either in big groups or extremely alert and in positions difficult to reach. Ram claims that they should head back if there is nothing to do over there, and everyone gets up. But Haru tells them that he wants to talk to Marie first. She seems to be taken aback by it, but bravely faces him asking what he wants and tells him that if he wants her to leave the party, he doesn't need to sugarcoat it and can tell her directly and she will leave immediately. Haru realizes that they all have been acting weird ever since they heard about Marie's backstory, and she must have picked up on it and believed that they were planning to kick her out. Haru promises her that they don't want her to leave and starts talking. He tells her that before her, they used to have a priest called Man who was their leader as well. He continues that Man ended up dying by the hands of goblins, or more honestly, their carelessness is what took Man's life. He tells her that Man used to heal them even if they got a tiny scratch, and alongside that, he was also the shield of the party alongside Mog. Essentially, he was doing 3 jobs alone, and even after that, he never let them realize it and silently bore all the weight alone and died in the end. He claims that when Man died, all of them thought that this was the end for their party, but to sustain themselves, they needed money, and to go adventuring, they needed a priest. And that's the only reason they wanted her in their team. He tells her that originally, they were simply a bunch of people who weren't taken in any of the teams, so Man decided to befriend all of them and created this party. And now, even after he is gone, they are still good friends who would support each other through the thick and thin. After that, he tells Marie that no matter what she thinks, he considers her a friend as well. Marie seems to be a bit taken aback, but she chimes in that even she considers her a friend, and soon every single one of them, including Rand, tell Marie that they all want to be her friends. After that, when the rain finally gets over in the evening, they all head back home while a beautiful sunset can be seen on the horizon. After that, she bids them farewell and runs away, while the rest of the party heads off to find Ma, the helmet. In the market, they were able to find an adequate helmet and head back for the day. And after that, fighting goblins became a little easier, as Ma could charge in the enemies without any fear, and they started getting back on track each day. Now their teamwork becomes good enough that they can take down a party of 4 goblins without much trouble, and alongside that, each day they were able to get even closer to Marie, who slowly but surely was warming up to them. Soon they were able to invest in better armor and even learn some more skills, like Haru's muting skill, which concealed his footsteps so he can sneak up on enemies better, followed by Shai's shadow magic, which puts any enemy asleep for a short duration of time. Ram was able to get backstep ability to quickly create some distance between him and the enemy, and then his thrust ability, which allowed him to lunge super fast with a stab attack, often catching enemies off guard. Meanwhile, Mog invested in the war cry skill, which paralyzes the enemies for a short moment, which is enough time for you with her increased accuracy to take care of. On the other hand, Maria has always been quite a few levels above them, so she didn't really need to invest in anything. Meanwhile, Haru learned a new ability which sometimes lets him see the path which his blade needs to take in order to one-shot the enemy, and if it hits the mark, any enemy dies in a single slash. That night, they all head back for a good night's sleep as they have decided to finally finish the remaining goblins from the ruins, as they have become much more powerful than before and believe that they can take them all out in one fell swoop and finally avenge the death of Man. After avenging the death of their fellow party member, leader, and their friend, they all go back to the valley to visit Man's grave as the first snow of the season starts falling around them. The next morning, Harbor wakes up early in the morning by habit, but realizes that they have decided to take a day off since their last day was pretty heavy in terms of physical and mental exertion. He goes downstairs and finds Mob cooking breakfast as he simply starts brushing his teeth while thinking, what the hell does he do with a free day? They sit outside for some breakfast as he bites into the freshly baked bread made by Mogul Weissman and starts eating it, alongside some amazing looking stew. Later that evening, they all assemble in the tavern once again, and while talking, Kick stumbles upon them once again and tells them that there has been some happenings in the city. According to him, some rookie adventurers went inside the ruined city and ended up encountering a bunch of armor-clad goblins who killed several of their teammates and injured a few of them as well, and Haru tells the others about the rumors of goblins still being present in the ruined city. Mag suggests that they should consider switching hunting ground, as it has been ages since they have exclusively been adventuring inside of the ruins. Hearing this, Haru softly says that they might go to the Cyrene Mines, which takes everyone aback because that's the place where Marie lost all of her teammates. He immediately tries to apologize to Marie, but Idiot Rand tells Haru that it is the best idea he has had in a while, and claims that they should definitely raid those mines and get as much loot as possible. Yume asks whether they are sure about it, as the giant monster is also present in the same mine, and if Mary's team couldn't do anything, they won't even stand a chance against it. Rand tells her that they should at least try, as the monster has a bounty of 30 gold coins on it. Haru tells him to calm down and tells everyone that no matter what, they have to change their hunting grounds. As always, staying and raiding the same area means that they get comfortable with the place and end up making careless mistakes, as it feels like an easy task. Suddenly, Murray stands up on her seat and starts breathing really heavily and looks up towards Haru, completely distressed. She asks them to excuse her for a bit and she walks off alone, away from the seat. Haru immediately gets up and starts following her outside, but she vanishes in the darkness of the night. He keeps looking into the starry night and finally finds her on top of the staircase. He walks up to her, but she collapses and apologizes for running away. She looks at Haru and tells him that she wants his help and her team's help, as she doesn't think she could do it alone. Haru reassures her that they will stand beside her no matter what as their friend, and that she can depend on them completely. Whenever she feels like the situation is getting out of her hands, she gets up and wipes her tears before thanking him for his words and saying that she looks forward to their next adventure. Before going to the mines, they all decide to upgrade their skills and gears, so that they have maximum chances of coming out alive. Some days pass by, and finally, the team is fully ready to explore the dungeons of Cyrene Mine. They look upon the mountain, while Haru gives them all words of advice, claiming that they are going in uncharted territory, so they need to be more cautious than ever, and with that out of the way, their journey begins. As soon as they get inside, the fight begins. Haru is matched against a weird monster who tries to shield his face in, but Haru slips past the attack and then tries to counter, but fails and is forced to back off. He slams into Ran, who is also losing ground, while Mog kills his monster with a single swing. Mog raises his sword for the finish, but the monster is already dead on the ground, so they move towards Ran quickly, who blocks the attack of his opponent before backing off, enchanting a spell, casting an Illuminati sign, and throwing some red liquid on the enemy. This new skill of his makes the enemy scared and unsure of its decision, which leads them to make mistakes. He finally finds an opening and slashes the monster's wrist before jumping in the air and delivering the kill and blow. After the area was cleared, Nuri tells them that these monsters are called cobs, and they have a nose ring, which is known as a talisman. They need to collect that as they can sell it for a decent sum inside of the market. They descend down to the next level, and Maria warns them that now shit will hit the fan, as this level consists of normal cobs, and the best thing to do for them would be to avoid fights as much as possible. They start walking and suddenly hear a bunch of howling noises which scare them, but Haru gives them some confidence and starts moving ahead. They move forward as some of the cobs start waking up. They enter a chamber where she uses her shadow magic to convert the ground to quicksand, which makes it impossible for the cobs to move, and the rest of her team take advantage of this situation by quickly getting rid of them with accurate strikes to their vital organs. One of the cobs who's hiding is spotted by Haru, who immediately sneaks up behind it and ends up seeing the path to kill it. He simply breathes out calmly and follows the line straight up to the opponent's neck, and stabs it, dead in a single strike. Ran wants to go forward to the next level, but Haru tells him that they should go back for the day and not push their luck as they are already tired and fighting stronger. Opponents in this state might be dangerous. Ran seems to be disappointed, but agrees nonetheless, and they all return back for the night. The next morning, Haru wakes up to the sound of knives going into a wooden board and gets up to see Young practicing her knife-throwing skills. He is impressed by her abilities while she shows him the knives that she bought recently and has been practicing every day to get better at throwing them. After stretching some more, they finally enter the dungeons, where Marie showcases her new ability, which doesn't do a lot of damage but numbs and weakens the opponent, which works very well with Ran and Mog, who can jump in afterwards and finish the kill. With their heavy attacks, they'd finally encounter one of the elders in Shy, who immediately uses her magic spells to slow it down. Harvard tells them that if they play their cards right, they might be able to defeat this monster without sustaining any injuries, but before they could think of a game plan, Ron goes in for a thrust and kills the monster. Immediately after that, they descend to the next level, which seems to be an open farmlands of sorts. They all look around and Young spots a bunch of weird animal-looking things coming towards them. Ran tries to poke them with his sword, but Haru tells him not to do it, and they start bickering again. Suddenly, Murray tells them to crouch, and they all immediately drop down as they see a bunch of cobs looking around for any signs of intruders. Ran suggests that they simply kill them all, but Marie advises against it, saying that the number of cobs here is insane, and if they get discovered, the cobs will swarm them very quickly. Unfortunately, Ran ends up tripping over wire, which alarms the enemies, and they all start howling and looking around for the source of this sound, while Spotty has been looking around for them as he could smell humans. Marie apologizes for spacing out and tells them all to follow her quietly. They descend to the next level safely, but this level feels like hell itself is. Everywhere they look, they can only see lava. As the temperature rises, they spot a bunch of cobs working with metal and making armor, while Marie tells them that they can't rest here and need to move quickly. Haru starts playing Assassin's Creed and jumps on one of the guards from above, stabbing him in the neck, killing it immediately. While Mog and Ran quickly grab the body so it doesn't make a sound, they drag the body to hide it, while the other cob barely misses them. They run from COVID to cover, and finally enter a cave, which is filled with beautiful-looking plants and statues. They all sit down for some time to get some rest, while Marie tells them that this is exactly the place where she lost 3 of her teammates. She walks ahead and picks up a staff, claiming that it used to belong to her before, but when they ran, she dropped it down here. While sitting, Yum suddenly gets up, claiming that she could hear something. Ran grabs one of the light plants and throws it in the direction of the sound, only to see 3 hooded figures standing in the darkness. They move forward, and Haru immediately realizes that these are zombified adventurers who didn't receive a proper funeral. Marie realizes that these zombies are her former teammates, so she goes ahead and calls them by their name, hoping that they would somehow snap out of it, but they seem to be too far gone and immediately draw their weapons out. Our heroes get ready with their weapons and armor as well, while the zombie mage casts a massive fire magic towards them. They somehow dodge the attack, while Mary tells Haru to cover her as she wants to go ahead. Haru realizes that Marie has recently learned dispelling magic, which can even reverse back the changes on a zombified corpse. But to do that, she will need to get into close quarters with the zombies. She starts walking towards them, unafraid, while Haru realizes that they need to do something. Rand gets pushed back by the thief, so Shai uses her shadow magic and binds the enemy, giving Rand the chance to attack. But to their surprise, the thief manages to block his blows and keeps fighting even after being stuck in place. Meanwhile, Ma's opponent seems to be much more agile and jumps in the air before delivering a very acrobatic attack, pushing Maud back. Harper realizes that he needs to do something, so he starts running along the firewall, only to spot Marie, who goes through the fire towards the mage. Haru follows her inside and spots her, getting ready to use her dispel magic, so he immediately attacks the mage, forcing her back and giving Marie opening to reverse the curse that converts the zombie into a real human being for a second before turning to dust as she hugs her. After that, Haru tells Yoon to assist Mog while he will go towards Ran and deal with that problem. He signals towards Ran and immediately goes in for a flurry of attack, while Arena uses this distraction and slashes through the zombie's legs, making it drop down, while Maria quickly rushes in and uses her magic to reverse the curse again. After that, Ran rushes towards the warrior and starts attacking it together with Yum and Mug, which gives an opening to Haru, who grabs him from behind while Mog slashes away its arms, giving Marie the opportunity to dispel the curse on her final teammate as well. They finally sit down to relax a bit and talk when suddenly a huge explosion is heard, and Spotty, the massive cob, enters the cave and starts walking towards them, giving Marie some serious Vietnam flashbacks. Haru tells everyone to run, but Rand tells him to save himself as the monster swings his massive sword at him. But Haru barely dodges by performing a slipping maneuver. Spotty grabs his sword and rushes towards him, once again slashing at him, but Haru moves out of the way and runs to the other side. He tells everyone to quickly escape, while Spotty emerges from the rubble and lets out a big howl, alerting every other cob in the area that comes rushing with swords and spears to block their path. Haru tells Rand to be the rear guard, so Rand pushes the cobs back and starts running behind his teammates. Marie and Haru make the jump, followed by Mog, who picks her up and jumps, and finally runs alongside. Mog's sword makes the jump successfully and lands on the wooden bridge. Haru tells them to move their asses quickly, as the cobs are increasing in number, while Yu tries to hold them back with her bow and arrow, but it is impossible to stop all of them. Suddenly they hear a loud noise and find Spotty following them and trying to break the structure that they are standing on. He finally tears it apart, and Haru starts falling, but tries to run on the falling beams to try and reach his party when he misses the final jump and starts falling. Thankfully, Ran comes in clutch and grabs his arm as Haru dangles above death. Ran tells him to quickly climb up, and as he is climbing, the enemies start shooting arrows at them while Spotty takes out a giant shield and hurls it towards them. Haru reaches to safety, but before Ran could reach him, he starts falling. Haru is unable to grab his arm as he falls down below into the rubble amidst the enemies. Ran screams from below and tells Haru to run away, as he is the leader now and needs to make sure the team is safe. He climbs up to the farmland place and informs the team about what happened before telling Marie to take them out of here before they all die. They immediately hide behind the walls as the enemies start shooting, and they all get ready to move. Rand somehow manages to escape to the upper level and stumbles his way in farmland and drops down to the ground. The weird, pig-looking creature surrounds him, and he decides to use that for his advantage and hides amidst them, regaining his composure. Meanwhile, the rest of the party regroups while Mary heals Haru, and he makes a plan to find Rand somehow and make it all the way to the top without losing anyone in their party. They all start slowly making their way into the farm while one of the cops ends up going near the pig monsters, forcing Rand to stab him in the chest. The drop weapon of the cop alerts the others, who immediately ring the bells and alarms everyone for the search. Haru and the others also hear this, and from above they spot Rand trying to make his way out of this situation. He hides inside of the closet, catching his breath while enemies search nearby. Suddenly, Spotty ends up breaking the closet and spots him before trying to pummel Rand to death. Isaha survives and uses his backstep ability to dodge Spotty's attack before limping away. Spotty follows him and would have killed Rand, but Yume uses her bow and shoots Spotty in the eye while Haru runs up to him and grabs him. The other cobs attack Maria and the others, but she is strong enough to defend herself, While Mog starts laying waste to anyone around him, Haru tells her to back off and makes his way forward, killing 2 of the wolf beasts before getting back to back with Ran again. While his teammates kill other monsters to make way for them to run safely, they take advantage of the chaos and are able to escape to the upper level where everyone takes a breather, and Marie heals Ran's wounds. They all start making their way out of this hell happily and have even survived when, to their absolute horror, Spotty climbs up the side of the ravine and tries to attack them once again. Maud rushes in for a strike, but Spotty breaks his sword and throws him aside. While even Shi's magic can't do anything, Har decides that he is the one who has to do something now. Subie rushes in alone and dodges Spotty's attack before grabbing his neck and pushing him back down the ravine alongside himself. Marie tries to help him, but Ran understands the situation and takes everyone out with him. Har wakes up from his fall and realizes that his wrist is broken, and by the time he patches it up, Spotty wakes up as well. Har has no idea what to do anymore and almost accepts his defeat. When the path opens and he gives it his all, he follows the path with his blade and stabs the monster's eye before slashing his sword into 2, which impales Spotty in the chest, and he dies on the spot. Harv looks around unbelievably, but gets so weak that he falls to the ground unconscious. The next time he wakes up, he finds himself in his bed while Murray is sitting beside him. She lets out a cry of joy by finally seeing him wake up again, and he goes down to find out that they all were able to escape safely, and after that, they came back again to find Haru lying beside a dead spot. The next day, Haru goes onto Man's grave and finally feels like he found closure, as he has one last talk with Man's ghosts and tells him that he will make sure to lead the team to the best of his abilities no matter what they face.